Today, we're jumping headfirst into Friedrich Nietzsche's masterpiece, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. We're going to trace this incredible philosophical journey that starts in total solitude and ends up calling for a brand new, radical purpose for all of humanity. So let's get right into it.
So the whole thing kicks off with a massive question, a real paradox. You've got this wise man, Zarathustra, who has spent 10 years on a mountain, totally serene, completely fulfilled. I mean, he's achieved it all. So why on earth would he choose to leave that perfect peace and head back down into the chaotic, messy world of people?
Well, his journey doesn't start because some god tells him to. Nope. It comes from this powerful, deep-seated need inside him. It's this incredible urge to give away all the wisdom he's gathered.
You know, he looks to nature and he sees a reflection of himself. Every day he watches the sun just generously pour its light out onto the world, and he thinks, that's me. He realizes his own wisdom has become heavy, and honestly, he'd be miserable if he didn't have anyone to share his own light with.
He feels this overwhelming need to go under, to descend from his mountain and just give his insight away. And this isn't some chore or duty for him. It's a natural, joyful overflowing of his own spirit. He's just so full, he has to share it.
And right there, that sets up the absolute bedrock of his entire philosophy. It's all about a deep generosity and a life-affirming drive to create and share, not to just sit back and hoard knowledge for yourself. But he doesn't go down alone. He's got his companions, the proud eagle and the wise serpent. They basically represent the two key forces he's going to need for the journey ahead: ambition and wisdom.
Okay, so he starts his descent, but almost immediately he's faced with his first major test, a choice that's going to define his entire mission from here on out.
He runs into this old saint in the forest who represents a very traditional path to holiness, right? Just withdraw from the world, find God in solitude. The saint even warns him, he says, look, people can't be trusted. They don't want prophets.
And this moment, it just perfectly highlights this fundamental clash of ideals. You've got one side, a life lived for the promise of heaven, and on the other, a life lived for this world, right here and now. It's that classic choice, spiritual withdrawal versus active engagement.
So by walking away from the saint, Zarathustra establishes one of his most important ideas, the meaning of earth. The whole point is that purpose, value, the entire struggle, it's all found right here in this life, not in some heavenly kingdom later on.
So he's made his choice, at least in theory. He arrives in a town, ready to share his wisdom, and he immediately faces his first brutal, real-world test.
He gets up in the marketplace to deliver his very first sermon. He's got this grand vision for humanity, right? He preaches that our whole purpose is to strive for something greater than we are, to become what he calls the Übermensch, or the Overman, a new type of human who has overcome our current limitations.
And the crowd's reaction, they are completely and utterly indifferent. They're just there waiting for a tightrope walker to perform. They actually laugh at his profound message. They'd rather have cheap entertainment than a difficult truth.
But then, the tragic performance that happens next becomes this powerful symbol for his entire philosophy. See, the tightrope walker represents humanity as a dangerous bridge to a higher state of being. But then, a buffoon, a cynic from the crowd, causes him to fall. This fall symbolizes how mediocrity can pull down greatness, and it shows that the journey is dangerous, and that failure is an inevitable part of the process.
Now this is the really crucial part. Look at how Zarathustra responds. He doesn't comfort the dying man with false promises of heaven or an afterlife. No, instead, he honors the man's courage, his effort, his struggle in this life. He's actually demonstrating his philosophy right there, finding meaning in the nobility of the earthly struggle itself.
So this harsh, embarrassing lesson in the marketplace forces Zarathustra to realize his whole approach was totally naive, completely flawed, and that leads to a huge transformation for him.
He gets it now. He can't just speak to the herd. The masses, the crowd in the marketplace, they're just not ready for his wisdom. His gift, that sun-like generosity, it'll just be wasted if he pours it out on everyone.
And this failure builds a new, stronger resolve in him. His goal shifts, and it shifts dramatically. He's no longer a preacher for the masses. His new mission is to find a select few, fellow creators, he calls them, individuals who are actually willing to forge new values with them.
So,
What you should take away from this is that his initial journey, his descent from the mountain, and his failure in the marketplace, it all serves to reveal the three essential pillars of his philosophy: the meaning of earth, the goal of self-overcoming, and the necessity of what he calls going under.
So in the end, this isn't really a story about failure. It's a story about a necessary transformation. His first attempt had to fail so that he could discover his true calling. And it's just a brilliant illustration of the difficult path anyone takes when trying to create something genuinely new, leaving us with a final question to think about.